Kyrie Jesu Domine, dona eis requiem.
Good morning and blessed Advent. I know I get on my Christmas hat, but I like the Christmas stuff early on and playing it all the way through Advent and all the way through the Christmas season. I'm not sure when this Christmas season ends. Sometime in early January. I want to say the earliest Christmas can end is like January the 7th. And the latest it can go is the 13th or 14th. That's kind of the time frame. Christmas roughly lasts 3 weeks. So it's great to celebrate. Not just the 12 days after, which takes you up to January 6th, but then usually another week after that. So that puts us up to the 13th. What I want to talk about today was yesterday's saint, because I ended up talking about the funeral I attended and dealing with the reality of death and suffering, and how we handle it with faith, and how people without faith, I don't know how they manage to make do. They have to have some system of belief. I think everybody does. But yesterday's saint was St. John Damascus, or St. John Damascene, and he was considered the last of the patristic fathers, writing in the 8th century and bringing that to kind of a conclusion. He wasn't from Damascus, as his name indicates, which was already by that time controlled by Islam. And in fact, before his ordination, he was an administrator in Damascus working for Muslims. So by the time they'd taken over there and he come about, there must have been some easing of relationships with Christians. It was not a time of formal persecution. It may have been a time of consolidating the Islamic Empire. So who knows? I didn't bone up on my Islamic history. Anyway, he's author of a number of great things. St. John Damascus, first of all, talks a lot about the iconoclast, people who were phobic about icons and imagery. And rightly so. Here's why are people phobic about icons and imagery, like the picture of the Sacred Heart behind me there. I suppose there are people in their either emotional or mental disturbances who think the picture answers their prayers, not the God that it serves to remind us of. We know Jesus Christ looks very different from that. He doesn't have a blazing heart on his chest, and he's probably not that pale. That's a pretty Anglo version of Jesus. But that's the springboard for the imagination. And icons are the same way, although icons are much more stylized and are meant to look otherworldly. I have a set of them down in my office, an icon of the Holy Trinity. It's the three angels that visit Abraham. An icon of Christ standing as the teacher, no Sacred Heart. And an icon of Blessed Mother, John the Baptist, John Chrysostom, and Gregory the Great. And those are individuals I consider as patrons of my priesthood, whose intercession I ask for, and ask them for various intercessory acts to help me in my ministry. But icons, and let's even say religious statuary and religious pictures and medals and things like that, are all part of a sacramental system. And a sacramental system is meant to help us jump from the material to the spiritual, from the physical world we live in to the unseen world that we know is more enduring than this one. And for the most part, Christianity was a sacramental system for 1,500 years. It is when Martin Luther breaks away from the church that he has a partial rejection of the sacramental system. Not complete, but partial. There's still a lot of sacramentalism and Lutheranism. But then after Luther, there's Calvin, and then so on and so on and so on, to where you have a hostility to a sacramental system. Even though your most basic, only Bible, Scripture alone person is still sacramental when it comes to baptism. They still believe something happens at baptism, and they believe it has to be received from somebody else. You can't baptize yourself. And you have to ignore Scripture if you say baptism is not in some way essential. It's pretty evident in Scriptures. Anyway, that's enough ranting on that. Maybe more on it later. However you get to God is great in my book.